support and wish him
President Muhammadu Buhari came to office raising high hopes, and Nigerians' expectations from his administration were equally high. But shortly after his assumption of office, the challenges he inherited were enormous. One of those challenges came from workers in most states threatening to dine tools following the inability of governments to pay salaries. Nigeria is facing dwindling revenue from oil and huge debts, which had led to a situation where workers at the federal and state levels are being owed salaries for many months, prompting calls for a quick resolution of the matter to prevent government activities from grinding to a halt. At his maiden meeting with the governors held inside the council chambers of the presidential villa, President Buhari did not mince words when he ruled out the option of bailout for states, but employed the governors to look inwards and generate funds to meet financial demands.
With state workers and some of the federal workers not even being paid their salaries is such a disgrace for Nigeria.
Few days later, the Accountant General of the Federation told newsmen at the State House that the President approved the bailout from the excess crude account.
About $1.7 billion.
This, however, brought relief to most states, but questions were asked on why the excess crude account should become the option of last resort. Contrary to the belief that the bailout fund was sourced from the excess crude account, the Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Finance, Anastasia Daniel Wokobia, and the media aide to the President, Femi Adesina, described the initial report as incorrect, clarifying that the ECA balance was intact. To many members of the governing party APC, the President's action is a right step in the right direction.
Money had come under the last president, it would have gone the same way as the previous years.
But the opposition fired back, faulting the wisdom behind the bailout.
Federation accounts are supposed to be shared among the 3 tiers of government, and monies that are supposed to go there must go there.
It has given the impression that state can mismanage the finances, the economy, or the fund of their state and run to the federal government.
Yet, the issue of constitutionality or otherwise of the presidential initiative has been raised in many quarters. A scrutiny of the 1999 Constitution as amended, particularly Section 164, seems to provide a direction to answer this question, and I quote, "The Federation may make grants to a state to supplement the revenue of that state in such sum and subject to such terms and conditions as may be prescribed by the National Assembly." End of quote.
Section 164 clearly empowers the federal government to do what they did. That's to give grants to states or local governments. But that section clearly says the National Assembly must prescribe the way and manner. Section 164 because
there are, however, concerns for how long will the federal government continue to bail out the states, especially if the economy doesn't record a significant improvement as soon as expected. When will the state wake up and shore up their internally generated revenue IGRBs? Questions begging for answers. Ijeoma Osamor, AIT News.
Sites of one of the several rural communities in the nation's capital, Abuja. Poor road network, erratic power supply, lack of potable water, and dilapidated structures are just some of the thorny issues that define the living conditions of those who reside here. Lack of government presence is gradually turning other rural settlements across the country into hamlets of neglect and sorry, leaving settlers with no other option than to contend with hardships, ignorance, and diseases. The discovery of crude oil in Oloibiri, Bayelsa State in the late 50s and the subsequent oil boom has over the years raked in billions of dollars into the coffers of the Nigerian government. But what is on ground does not reflect the nation's financial profile. Corruption is one nagging problem successive governments in Nigeria have not been able to deal with decisively. It is even worse when funds belonging to the country are siphoned by those entrusted to manage them. In 2014, the United States took control of more than $480 million Abacha loot lodged in banks around the world. Today, the U.S. government is again offering to assist the Buhari administration recover more of Nigeria's stolen wealth. Nigerians welcome with great optimism this renewed relationship between Nigeria and the U.S., hoping that its outcome will not only put an end to endemic corruption, but also transform Africa's biggest economy into a major global player. Tina Beso, BBA, AIT News, Abuja.